What I find interesting with the movie is you like these characters, but they're actually mean.
You're almost watching a person move from a dark place to try to find out what is real love and what have I been doing that separates me from other people in my life. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Movies Are Spiritual. This is Doug's fifth favorite movie of all time. So hold your breath. What is going to be number 5 on Doug's top movies list?
Ironically, my number top 5 movie is High Fidelity, basically a movie about making top 5 lists. High Fidelity, for those of you who haven't seen it, stars John Cusack, one of my favorite actors of all time, just because he's good, but he's also a Cubs fan, so that makes him better. It's about him, and he's at a very low point in his life. He was a DJ, he was getting kind of popular, he had the best girlfriend ever, but then things fell apart with the girlfriend. He quit DJing. Now all he does is run an average record shop. And he's struggling and he's trying to figure out why it didn't work out with Laura, the woman of his dreams, or that he believes is the woman of his dreams at that point. Then he starts making top 5 lists of his top 5 worst breakups, and that's what takes him back to talking with former girlfriends and trying to figure out why things didn't work. So it's about him, kind of growing, or at least fixing himself and trying to piece together why things didn't work to figure out why it didn't work with Laura. Interweaving with that, a lot of great music talk. John Cusack's a big music head, so he throws out a bunch of different bands that you may never heard of, styles of music, and also stars Jack Black, and anything he's in is usually pretty funny. He works with John Cusack and has some great one-liners. Of course, he plays Jack Black in this movie, so it's a perfect role for him. It does have a nice happy ending. You can see that his life is starting to get back on track. So it's just again, another fun movie, but it's interesting, mainly big for me because of all the music talk. I'm not a music head. I do really like music, and I know an average amount. But I do love listening to people who know a lot more than I do talk about it. Like listening to Drew talk about the Beatles is amazing. I know Nathan has a lot of rock knowledge as well, so hearing him talk about bands that I've never heard of is really cool. So I enjoy talking about it, but I don't have a lot of knowledge. I do enjoy listening to it a lot more. So that's a big plus when it came to this movie. But spiritual themes, it's a big romance story. It's kind of dark in places and everything, but it is him trying to piece together why he messed up with his soulmate, who he believes is his soulmate. So I do like that. It's a man fighting for love. He realized he had something great and that he screwed it up, and he's trying to fix himself to get that love back. That's a nice little spiritual part of it, I think. I don't know. Gentlemen, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it's about introspection. And honestly, if you watch the movie in 2022, like you watch it today, it's a little bit harder because like the way he talks about women, it's not very PC. So if you can put that aside and you can just think of him as somebody who's struggling and who is trying to take a step in his maturity and in his life and maybe find a more pure form of love, like a less shallow appreciation of others, and you take that approach, like you're watching this character take that one step in his journey, moving out of an egotistical place. I think you can find some value there, but you might cringe at some moments. But I mean, we all probably know a lot of people who have been in this place, and I'm not real proud of where I was at when I was 20. So I think you're almost watching a person move from a dark place to try to find out what is real love and what have I been doing that separates me from other people in my life.
Mm-hmm. It has actually been a while since I've seen the movie. What I remember the most about it was the music in it. Because I always thought that'd be like a really cool job that he had working in a record store. I think that was one of the things I always thought was really neat about it, because I thought, what an awesome job. You get to work and sell vinyl all day. it'd just be a fun job, I think.
What I find interesting with the movie is you like these characters,
Mhm.
but they're actually mean and just they're
Yes.
not good
Yeah.
people. For instance, there's a scene where this guy comes in and he wants to buy a record for his daughter. And he thinks it's a good idea to buy 45 of Stevie Wonder singing I Just Called to Say I Love You, which has a lot of heart to it. Will she listen to that record a lot? Probably not, because this takes place in the early 2000s, so you're probably talking about a 16-year-old girl. She didn't grow up listening to Stevie Wonder, more than likely. So instead of saying, well, are you sure? Or, yeah, here's the sale, Jack Black kind of goes off on him and saying, are you stupid? Do you think your daughter's going to buy this? And which is funny because, first of all, they're trying to sell records so John
Right.
Cusack can make money, and he's just blowing a sale. But, it's funny, and, it is. But at the same point, it's just weird watching that movie and laughing at that and liking these characters when he was just awful to that guy. And like John Cusack, he's in love with Laura and he has this great conversation with Laura. And in the movie, it's kind of cool because he does break the
Yeah.
fourth wall and he'll talk to you. He literally turns to the audience and he's like, that was a great conversation with the woman I love, or something like that. So what do I do next? I'm going to go sleep with Marie. And then he goes, and the next scene is them laying in bed together. And he goes and just sleeps with another woman. And it's like, you're in love with Laura. You just had a great conversation that took you to the next step, and then you just took a big step back. It's weird like that. Yeah.
I was watching that with my wife, and we're sitting there like, are we supposed to be rooting for this guy at this point? Like, you want him to redeem himself, but he's not treating these women necessarily well. Like, if I was serious about dating a girl and then I found out that after a date she went and slept with another guy, I'd be pretty upset. Like, I actually had a girl I was really interested in call me at like 4 a.m. once from another guy's house. Like, she was staying over there, and I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
wait a second. So that was kind of the end of that. But yeah, that was kind of her John Cusack moment, I guess.
Yeah.
But you want to see him redeem himself, and he's having all these struggles like that.
Yeah. I think that's why you like him.
Yeah, you're rooting for him, but you're watching him make mistakes. And at the same time, on another spiritual theme, it's like, why are we attracted to women who aren't good for us, or partners who are damaging for us? There is something there. I mean, I've been there too.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I find it interesting because he's fascinated with this girl, Charlie, and she is wild and crazy, not a good partner, like not a good match if you're trying to like bare your soul to somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're almost gonna like stomp on it.
Well, yeah, and it's funny because the way we're talking about how we think he acts, that's how he talks about her. It's like she's always just awful and rude. And it's like, well, so are you.
At what point does he see that he is doing that himself
I
to
think
other
he
women?
almost, if I remember correct, doesn't he kind of know that he's doing that the whole time? It's just almost like he can't help it.
I think partially, yeah. I think he feels like he has to because he's struggling with feelings and relationships, and that's why he's going back and revisiting all his top 5 worst breakups and trying to figure out, piece together, what is it about me that I can fix so I'm not this person. And that's why he says, oh, that was a great conversation. Now I'm going to go sleep with somebody else. I think that's just who he thinks he has to be. And maybe towards the end of it, he's pieced together everything to the point where he's at least to the next step.
It's commitment. He has a fear of commitment. And I think because he can't commit to her, I think that at the same time he's kind of hindering himself on what he could do because he can't commit to her and he can't commit to anything. So it's not only
Mm-hmm.
ruined his relationships, it's also kind of held him back from doing whatever it is that he wanted to do because he just can't commit to it.
So, question on that: if someone can't commit to another person in some capacity, has he robbed himself of love, or at least a deeper love? Like, is commitment a necessary ingredient for maybe the deepest kind of love that we're all looking for?
Well, I mean, I think so. A little
I
bit. I
think
mean,
it's.
getting married. I got married, and obviously, the love I have for my wife is not like any love I've ever had for anybody else with any other relationship I may have been in. And I've been kind of like on the Cusack side where I would date somebody, and as soon as it started seeming like, hey, this could get serious, I would panic and freak out, and I got to get out. Like, I got to get out.
Been there.
And then then you meet someone else, and they're super nice, and you're really getting along great with them, and all of a sudden it's like I start panicking again because it's like I don't know if I can commit, and then you end up, and for a long time I kept thinking too, like, what's my problem? Because I've met some really fantastic women that I really get along well with, and I just completely shut down, and it's like it's nothing that they did. It's totally me,
Mhm.
but I didn't know how to get over that. And then I met Allie, and it was completely different. Just all of a sudden, it was just different. So I didn't have that panic attack.
I lived a mild version of what John Cusack's character goes through. And not quite the same. Like, I wasn't sleeping around with a bunch of women or something.
Mhm.
But I was 20 years old, and I was at our friend Sean's apartment, who you guys know. And I was sitting there going through all of these previous relationships out loud and trying to figure out why they hadn't worked. And I was just like naming off all these girls for the last 10 years that I dated, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And he goes, "Hey, you need to watch this movie." And he hands me High Fidelity. And so I watched it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is me. And then after I watched that movie, I got in a 3-year relationship.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
It can be kind of a wake up call. And again, I don't want to talk bad about their characters or anything like that. Yeah, they are kind of mean and everything, but they're flawed. Most characters show flaws throughout, but usually it's like this huge, great big Captain America guy, and he's great, he's great. Oh, here's a little bit of a flaw, and he'll overcome it. And these guys, they're full of flaws throughout the movie. That's all they show. And you were talking about commitment, and I think the point where you see him start to really make that step to the commitment level is when he's listening to, there's a point in the movie where he walks in and there's this kind of rock rap music playing, and the other two guys that work there are just sitting there quiet, and then Cusack, it hits him. It's like, this music's kind of good. And it just happened to be music from the kids that skate outside their shop and try to steal from them. He goes out to the skaters and he's like, I'm going to be your manager. I'm going to do this for you. And, we're going to do this, and we're going to get your music out there. And he commits to a band to be in his label, Top 5 Records.
Yeah, top 5 records.
Top 5 something. That's right at the end of the movie where you start to see him convert into this person of commitment. All of the characters you start to see step up a little bit. The character named Dick, he finds somebody that's weird like him, and who's the actress that was on Roseanne?
Sarah Gilbert.
Yeah, Sarah Gilbert. He's found a love interest for him. Jack Black, who's this just crazy, wacky dude and everything, he's got this band that's going to play, and John Cusack's all worried. He's like, oh, God, everyone's going to walk out, and they break into Let's Get It On. Jack Black can't sing, and he puts on, and everyone's getting into it, and he kind of has a redeeming moment. So, you get that redemption moment. I'm not saying it's a redemption story or anything like that, but you do get that happy moment at the end where everyone takes a step forward.
No, I can see that, especially when John Cusack goes out to that band, because it's probably troubled kids who are going down the wrong path, and he intervenes to maybe give them something constructive to do that's possibly going to save their lives or save the direction that their lives are going.
Mhm.
And I think that ties back to like our role as humans. So if you want to get into the spiritual side, what I see there is, in the Garden of Eden, humans are there, everything's good. When they leave, everything's messed up. And we're supposed to be slowly trying to put the world back together, right? So we get back to a better place like Eden. Well, that's almost John Cusack's character trying to make an impact on the world for good to restore things. And he's going through that himself. He's separated from other people, he's damaging other relationships he's in. And by being introspective, he's looking at that and trying to figure out, how can I put the world back together? How can I put my life back together and my relationships? So he's moving closer to something like the Eden situation, which I think like that's a very spiritual concept about God that if you look hard enough, you can see it in this film. Now, I'm a big fan of being very lenient on people, right? Like grace, that concept. So when I see John Cusack, yeah, you might see some stuff that disturbs you. We said he's not real nice to people, but all I really care about is he on some kind of journey? Like, is he taking a step from where he's at? That's what makes me able to root for him in this movie, is because, it was a little bit harder at some points in the film, but he is taking a personal step forward. And that's really all you can ask from anyone, especially if they're starting out in a really damaged place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And plus, you got to root for John Cusack because Tim Robbins, the character he plays, is like Cusack times 10. he was like the even most awful person. Rings on his fingers. Tim Robbins played a great, kind of a strange part for him. It's not a character that you normally see him play. So that was kind of an interesting, almost cameo in the movie. That's my number 5. That's my only top 6 movie that I watched as an adult for the first time. And because I was an adult when it came out, so most of my movies or the rest of them have a very nostalgic reason for why I love them. But this one right next to another John Cusack movie, Grosse Point Blank, which is probably number 8. Both of those movies, just watching them as an adult, they're kind of darker movies. I'm not recommending to all, but you see a flawed person move forward. It's not like they become great and famous and rich and everything like that. They make another step to something a little bit better. And I like that. I've been down in the dumps, and it is just, you got to take that next step. You got to find out what the problem is, fix it. Once you fix that, let's fix something else and just start moving forward. Don't find somebody to blame. Just do it. Move forward. I think that's why this movie, along with all the music talk and the music in the movie, makes it a really cool movie. And that's why it's in my top 6.
I think so. I have to go back and watch it, but I do remember enjoying it. I saw it in college. It's a good one. And I didn't see that one coming. I would never have picked that on your top 6 list if I was trying to guess them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird one.
It's an interesting study of like the psychology of dating at age 20, basically. All right. Well, thank you, Doug. Listeners, now you're going to have to try to guess what Doug's 4th favorite movie is going to be, which will be coming up in the next video. So stick around.
See you.